Hello, everybody, and welcome to Whisper2Scream, October 2019, second edition. My name is Bernard, and I am your host. So tell a neighbor, text a neighbor, and say, watch Whisper2Scream on YouTube and Facebook at Coon Tunes Productions. And find us on Instagram at Coon Tunes, the number 2. Also, please hit the subscriber button and the bell icon so you'll know when we post a new one. We got a lot to talk about, so let's get started. We're going to continue our expose on our police force here in America. This segment is one we hate to talk about, but we have to. It's police corruption. Now, maybe we should call this broadcast a Halloween post because these stories make A Nightmare on Elm Street look like a cartoon. For whatever reason, we have some cops out here committing crimes, from theft, bullying, extortion, and even more heinous crimes. The cache of criminals comprise a very small portion of the police force, but just like any bad apple, they can contaminate the whole barrel if left to fester. Check out what's happening on our streets.
And one of the great things about being the chief of police of Biscayne Park is that we are truly a family here. A family who works together and is joined by one common cause, which is the protection of life and property for the residents of the village of Biscayne Park.
This chief of police in Florida and his department was shut down after heinous activity was exposed. This cop in New York ran a house of prostitution for years. Now, this horror movie took place in Baltimore.
But at the same time, another police scandal was brewing. During the chaos of the protests, a police officer named Wayne Jenkins was actively running a drug operation. He took prescription drugs that were stolen from looted pharmacies and resold them on the black market. But that's not all he was doing. Wayne Jenkins was a sergeant in charge of a powerful unit of plainclothes detectives. Their job was to take firearms off the street. But this FBI evidence revealed that the officers operated as a gang within the police department, profiling residents, breaking into homes, stealing cash, trafficking drugs, and looting the city of overtime pay.
What didn't they do? What didn't they do?
It was crooked cops around and doing bad things to people.
In 2017, 8 officers were arrested in one of the worst American police scandals in a generation. Fault lines returned to Baltimore in the midst of that scandal, which raised questions that communities across the U.S. have been asking for years. How do corrupt officers remain on the street? And who should police the police?
I told them that. I went to Internal Affairs and told them they took my money 10 years ago and y'all just getting.
When you have people in the neighborhoods and you say, look, these police rob you, they beat you, they plant drugs on you, this stuff, and we know they do. And we're going to send them back out there anyway. It's a reflection on the official stance that the city has on the value of their lives.
The finding that accountability systems are inadequate and broken, and that internal affairs is not designed to identify and address serious misconduct of police officers is a common finding in police department after police department after police department.
2016 was also the year that Sergeant Wayne Jenkins carried out some of his biggest heists.
Hey, Sarge! Hey, come downstairs right quick!
This video captures Jenkins and his colleagues trying to cover up a robbery.
Oh! All right, hold on. Take it out. Oh, there you stop. Stop right now. Take a picture of it there or record it right now. Hold on. I need lights. Somebody have a flashlight? Hold on. I got it. Do not, nobody touches you, understand?
That's Sergeant Jenkins telling his colleagues not to touch the money in the safe. But moments earlier, they had pocketed $100,000.
But gun and cocaine, probably I would say 2 1/4 just by looking at it. I didn't touch it yet, up in the visor. And a gun. Danny, keep that on. I want you to go up and pull the visor down. You're going to see everything we've done.
This body cam footage shows how Jenkins and his crew operated. Many of their crimes began with a traffic stop and ended with allegations of planted evidence and home invasions.
See the cocaine up in the visor, and right after that, you can see a little, you can see the handgun right there, too. Right there's the handgun.
This man's case, along with hundreds of others, was dropped after the officers were arrested.
What role did this gun task force fill for city officials?
Numbers. They generated stats. I mean, that's all it was about. You know, guns on the table.
There's Detective Graham. He pulled out the handgun and the cocaine.
They were making a lot of arrests. They were making probably weekly, if not daily, just ripping and running, snatching guns.
Police officials wanted to prove they could tackle the city's soaring homicide rate, so they championed the aggressive tactics of Jenkins and his squad.
When the political pressure comes, that's when guys like Wayne Jenkins and this crew, that's when they can really excel, because that's when the blind eyes get turned. You know, the ends justify the means.
Now, what is frightening is most of these bad cops never see jail time. So even if there is a community police review board and it may find cops guilty, the final decision is usually made within the police department itself. So one might ask, why don't the good cops expose the bad cops and preserve the integrity of our police force? Well, here are a few nightmares why they don't do it. A cop, a whistleblower, was shot in the face. Another cop was thrown into a psych ward. In Florida, a cop named Jose Rosado was fired for blowing the whistle on his police chief, who told cops to stop, search, and arrest all black males between the ages of 15 and 30, even if they were in front of their own homes. A real macabre story that took place in Buffalo, where a policewoman named Carol Hone told her fellow cop to stop choking a suspect who was in handcuffs. Instead of standing down, he went berserk and started beating her. Now, she ended up losing some teeth and also losing her job, just 2 months shy of receiving her pension. Now, he was fired a few years later, not because of that incident, but because he repeated that werewolf behavior on several other of his comrades. Now, we've talked about cop corruption in previous broadcasts, and today that corruption is seeping through the blue skin of his own support system. Once again, I'm going to impress upon you to monitor your own neighborhoods, because if we don't, zombies from the Night of the Living Dead will continue to plague our communities. We must, I repeat, we must embrace the United States Constitution and exercise the rights our forefathers fought and died for. That's real talk. As always, be blessed and stay woke.